Welcome to the Limitless Ladies Network podcast, where we are limitless in sharing lessons to advocate and drive insightful, empathetic self-care. The Limitless Ladies Network is dedicated to nourishing minds, educating on self-care, and facilitating transformative experiences. Our mission is to guide women to age with grace, cultivate good health, and build meaningful connections to bring happiness into their lives. We strive to empower the ladies of the community so they may successfully advocate for themselves and embrace a journey of holistic well-being. Please note that the information and opinions shared on this podcast are for educational purposes only and are not intended in any way to be used as medical advice. Please seek a medical professional for any health-related matters, and always refer to our full disclosure in our show notes. Hello, and welcome to today's episode, where I want to just touch base once more on a situation that I talked about in a previous episode about not going into surgery for an issue that I was having with my gallbladder. So I said I would give a follow-up, and here I'm giving a follow-up. I have gone through quite a bit of adjustments since then. That was probably back in January. And I've made some changes again to my diet, looking at what it was that I was eating and how I was exercising and a couple other things. So I started down an Ayurvedic path for a while, which actually seemed to help based on my doshas. I did a little experiment there on the foods that I was eating and made some changes. Also started doing some things with my exercise where I'd get up and exercise each morning to really kind of get things moving, and still was having a little bit of issues. And you may remember that I also talked about some hormone replacement therapy. I have been on a couple different hormone replacement therapies. Tried the pellet, tried some creams, and there's various different ones, and it felt like it was almost a full-time job to be able to manage some of those. But they were helpful as I was going through a lot of the issues with my gallbladder and the side pain that I was having. They had discovered that there were some other issues happening, some swelling in my side, one of my fallopian tubes, and I also had a little bit of swelling in my right kidney. And so, just kind of being cautious about all of that. I went and cut back on my hormones and basically stopped them. And I think things got quite a bit worse because of that. Because little did I know, which wasn't really explained to me very well, was that my estrogen and progesterone that I was taking, especially the estrogen, may have been part of the impact of some of the initial changes. Um, it's where if you are going to go down hormone replacement therapy, then it is a good thing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, because most women really should do it, especially if you're starting in menopause around 45-ish, like I was, and you have a long life to live. You still potentially could have another 40 to 50 years to go. And you don't want to have to deal with all the side complications of that, which is dryness, incontinence, prolapse happening, dryness, um, and, painful intercourse, which is definitely not fun, along with a host of other things that can make havoc with your body. So hormone replacement therapy is definitely something that you should really talk with a good healthcare provider about. And there's some that are, I can refer to if you reach out to me directly. We actually did have somebody on our directory that was pretty helpful as well. And just even checking with a good naturopathic doctor, which we do have on our directory, New London Natural Health, and get some information from them as well to do some accurate testing. As I went through a lot of this, right, I was trying to eat healthy. Most of you know that I do eat pretty healthy. And eating healthy fats is good. Avocados, definitely. I don't do dairy because that tends to have an issue with me. And so I switched over to cashew milk and loved that as an alternative to regular milk. Doing that Those couple of things may have also contributed to some of the situation because although they are good fats, they could have been just in excess. So everything in moderation, right? So cutting back on some of those as well was something else that I had considered. But when we look at hormones for women, it typically will be our estrogen that is the major problem, as I mentioned. So with females, there's an estrogen issue. One, if you're female and you have gallbladder issues, typically they are because you are female. As I mentioned previously in that episode, generally 50% ish of women will have their gallbladder removed or have some type of gallstones that might be associated with having those changes in their hormones. Additionally, if you're fertile, you may notice this that you have gallstones when you're pregnant or after pregnancy because you've got that major dip that happens. Also, any women that have belly fat because there's excess fat around your liver and what needs to be processed. So that can put a little bit of a strain in any woman that's really over 40. So you're thinking perimenopause. So you could have that happening at the same time, which would be an issue. So some of the symptoms that you might come out with would be that you've got, constipation, you are having, some issues with digestion right after you eat your meals, you've got that right side pain. So there's a lot of symptoms that could be seen as maybe just going through your regular cycle, or you're just not feeling well in some cases. So kind of tuning into your body is really important because you can have, from what I've researched, and I'm no expert here, so definitely check with your healthcare provider on this and get more information. This is me just sharing my story of what I found. There could be estrogen dominance, in which case, many women have that and it increases the cholesterol that we actually have within our gallbladder. And we need to have estrogen to be able to process some things that go through there, but we don't want to have too much because too much of anything is not good. Like I said, too many avocados, not a good thing. Too much cashew milk, not a good thing. So you do want to kind of be mindful of some of those things that you're consuming. And high processed foods could be a bad thing as well. High fat foods, greasy foods, definitely want to stay away from those kinds of things. But our gallbladder is really important because we want to make sure that it is processing anything that we eat, whether we are drinking water or we are digesting a fatty meal. As soon as we almost start thinking about taking a sip of water or drinking something, our system is actually in tune so keenly that it kind of starts the bile production, or should be starting it anyway, to know that there's something that's coming down the pike. So it needs to process. It's a really important organ that we want to make sure that we keep. So be mindful of anyone that's telling you that you might need to have it surgically removed, or if you have those pains with gallstones and things like that, it could just be that you need to look at your estrogen and how that is. Because you could also have a low estrogen, in which case, you have trouble and it gets thicker and it's creating um, it might just be creating an issue where it's still, again, not flowing properly because it's getting sludgy. So you need to be mindful of those things too, because everything should be in balance. So my suggestion to you would be to, from my own experience again, would be making sure that you get your levels checked. Um, and definitely checking with your OBGYN. You might even be able to ask your primary care doctor about that as well. If you do go to a naturopath, they will definitely ask a lot of questions. They might even send you for some testing to get in depth a little bit more in terms of how your body is reacting. When you go for hormone replacement therapy, most of them will make sure that you do some blood work to see where your levels are as well. So definitely check with your healthcare providers on that. Watch where you're eating, as I talked about. Having some leafy greens like arugula and things like that will help. Dandelion, is really helpful in moving some of that bile production as well. There's beetroot is helpful as well. Also want to think about eliminating some caffeinated drinks because that's dehydrating. So you don't want your gallbladder to be shriveled up like a raisin when it needs to be processing. And if you do drink a lot of coffee, always advisable that you have 2 cups of water for every cup of coffee. So keep that in mind, my coffee drinkers. So I love coffee too. Sometimes I forget to drink water, which also could be the problem. And leads into my next tip. Stay hydrated. We should definitely have a lot of water. The 8 glasses of water might not necessarily be enough for you, especially if you're a big caffeine drinker. So be mindful of those. Try to keep track of what it is that you're drinking throughout the day and make sure that you have enough hydration. Exercising is important just to keep things moving. As always, you want to have flow of everything, and movement is super important. Walking counts. Doesn't have to be anything super strenuous, although weightlifting for us in our older age is very key for us for building bones, muscle mass, which we need so that when we fall, we don't get fractures, which is another high risk for us women. So exercise is definitely high up there on the list. And another tip that I recently found is sleeping on your left side, because I love to talk about sleep. Sleeping on your left side at night is actually the most optimal way for us to sleep. Why? Because our digestive tract kind of goes around in a circle. And when it comes from our liver and gallbladder and goes into the stomach, it's actually on the right side that it begins. And then it kind of flows. So if it flows down towards the left, it will help things to kind of flow again a little easier. So just keep that in mind. If you're not a left side sleeper, you might want to consider giving it a try. Use some pillows, which are always great to prop you up. So I wanted to share these simple tips and tricks and just give a little bit of information as I still have my gallbladder and it's been 4 months. I still do struggle, honestly, with a couple of things popping up here and there. And hormone replacement, again, it's a great thing. It just needs to be in check and it needs to be something that you monitor. It is good for you mentally, physically, in many ways. And estrogen is also a key component of our bile production and also could cause some issues with cholesterol too. So just be aware, advocate for yourself if you're having any symptoms, issues with digestion, if you're feeling constipated, if you're um, feeling as though you're having issues with frequent urinations, other things like that. That could be something to do with your estrogen and maybe your progesterone as well, that you might want to get checked out. Because why should we have to live through any discomforts in our older age for decades, right? So definitely finding the resources that you need and just advocating. And I'm a big component of if you don't like the answer that you get, you don't always have to go with the first answer. You can call around, you can have initial appointments with different doctors and practitioners to find out and get more information. The more information that we have, the more informed that we can be about our own health. So hopefully you found this episode to be useful. I know it's brief, but I did want to give an update as to my current status and just some information that I found. Because again, that's what we're here for, to educate on how we can better our lives and just thrive in our later years. So if you like this episode, leave us a comment. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment as well or looking for a referral for hormone replacement therapy, happy to do that for you as well, as there's quite a few people that I do know. And please like us, subscribe to our channel so that you get all the latest episodes. Check out our directory of some great holistic wellness practitioners that can support you, whether that be in prolapse or it be for, natural health. with New London Natural Health. And also check out our website where we have some great events coming up at some local wineries at Oxen Oak and also at Salem Pines Equine Retreat. And if you're a woman who also works with some ladies groups and would love to have someone come in and talk to them about some holistic ways of sleep, stress, and self-care, and a little bit about menopause too, I'm happy to talk with you about that and how we can help your community to thrive. So thank you.